In the silent world of high-stakes chess, I was a queen. My name is Alara, and my kingdom was the 64 squares where I danced with kings and bishops. My king, or so I thought, was Julian. He wasn't just my partner in life, he was my fiercest rival, the only one whose mind truly mirrored mine. We were the golden couple of the chess world, our every move analyzed, our romance a celebrated spectacle. We built an empire together, a brand, a legacy, but in our private games, the ones played away from the cameras, the stakes were always higher. Our world was a beautiful, intricate lie. I discovered it on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day that already feels like a sigh. I was looking for a misplaced file on Julian's laptop when I saw it. A folder, innocently labeled Strategies. Inside wasn't chess theory. It was a meticulous plan, a blueprint of my downfall. Emails, chat logs, financial records, it was all there. Julian, in collusion with my supposed best friend and manager, Marcus, had been systematically siphoning funds from our shared ventures. But it was worse than that. They had been feeding my opponents my private notes, my secret preparations for the upcoming World Championship. They weren't just stealing my money, they were stealing my soul, my life's work. The betrayal was so absolute, so cold, it felt like a checkmate I never saw coming. For a week, I was a ghost in my own life. I smiled for the cameras, I moved the pieces on the board, but inside I was calculating. Not chess moves, but moves of a different kind. Revenge is a game I had never played, but I'm a fast learner. My grief turned to ice, my sorrow sharpened into a weapon. They thought I was a fragile queen, easily toppled. They forgot that a queen is the most powerful piece on the board. I wouldn't scream or cry, I would play. My first move was subtle. I started a whisper campaign leaking small, unverifiable details about Marcus's financial creativity to online forums. Nothing that could be traced back to me, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. I watched as his confident swagger began to falter, as sponsors started asking questions he couldn't answer. He was a pawn, and I was positioning him for a sacrifice. He thought he was playing on Julian's team, but in my game, he was just in the way. Then, I turned my attention to Julian. He loved the spotlight, the adoration of the crowd. So I decided to give him the performance of a lifetime. During a press conference for the championship, a journalist, fed an anonymous tip by me, asked Julian a pointed question about his unconventional training methods. I had prepped for this. As he fumbled for an answer, I stepped up to the microphone. I didn't expose him, not yet. Instead, I defended him, with tears in my eyes. I spoke of our unbreakable bond, our shared dream, painting a picture of a love so pure it was almost divine. I made the world fall in love with our story all over again. I saw the relief in his eyes, the smug satisfaction. He thought he'd dodged a bullet. He didn't realize I was just setting up the board. The higher you lift someone, the harder they fall. The night before the final match of the World Championship, Julian and I sat across from each other in our hotel suite, a chessboard between us. "One last game," he said, his voice smooth as silk, "for old time's sake." He was so confident. He believed he had already won. He had fed my opponent, a ruthless grandmaster named Kale, my entire playbook. He thought I was walking into an ambush. "Of course," I replied, my voice steady. We began to play, but this wasn't one of our usual games. I played erratically, making moves that seemed illogical, even foolish. Julian's brow furrowed in confusion, but he took the bait, capturing my pieces one by one. He was so focused on the trap he had set, he didn't see the one I was building. On the surface, I was losing, my defenses crumbling. But every move I made, every piece I sacrificed, was a message. A story only he and I could understand. Each move corresponded to a specific lie he had told, a specific promise he had broken. The sacrificed knight was the business deal he sabotaged. The exposed bishop, the friendly advice he gave my rival. As the game progressed, the color drained from his face. This wasn't chess. It was a confession, laid bare on the board. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. He finally understood. I hadn't been playing against Kale. I had been playing against him all along. My training for the past few months hadn't been about winning the championship. It was about creating a new style, a new theory that no one, not even the man who shared my bed, had ever seen. The notes he leaked were a decoy, a brilliant, intricate feint. "How?" he whispered, his voice trembling. I just smiled, a slow, cold smile. I leaned forward and made my final move. It wasn't a checkmate, it was a stalemate, a position from which neither of us could win, but from which he could never escape. A perfect, beautiful, eternal prison on the board. It was a draw, but it was my victory. The next day I walked onto the championship stage. Julian was a wreck, but he had to be there. I faced Kale, and I played the game of my life. The new style I had forged in the fire of my betrayal was unstoppable. It was fluid, unpredictable, and utterly brutal. I didn't just win, I dismantled him. I claimed the title of world champion. After the match, as the confetti fell, I took the microphone. I didn't mention Julian or Marcus. I didn't need to. I had already sent a complete dossier of their crimes to the authorities and the International Chess Federation. Their careers were over. Their lives, as they knew them, were finished. Instead, I looked into the camera and said, "In chess, as in life, sometimes you have to sacrifice your queen to win the game. But today, the queen took the king. I walked away from the board, from the flashing lights, from the hollow crown. I had my revenge. But as the adrenaline faded, a chilling emptiness remained. I had played the perfect game, but in the end, I was alone on the board. The victory felt cold, the silence deafening. Winning the war had cost me everything I ever thought I loved. And as I stood there, champion of the world, I had to wonder, was it worth it? That's a game I'm still playing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.